Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 333. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today we got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
333. Here we go.
Oh, boy.
Jumping into it. This week on the show, we'll be taking a look at Rick Alverson's The Mountain.
Oh, the movie everybody's talking about.
The movie everybody's talking about this weekend, The Mountain. I will be giving my thoughts on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I did see it. We'll also be talking about someone we're watching on the watch list, going over this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to please consider reviewing us on iTunes. If you get a chance, that would be incredible. A couple of housekeeping bits at the top of the show here. New Ryan Watches a Movie is dropping on Thursday.
Watch out.
I feel like we're getting into a little groove here. I'm liking this.
You know what that means. They're not going to record for another 3 weeks.
Yeah, he does these spurts where he's like really responsive and on top of things, and we'll crank out like 3 of them in a row, and then it's just radio silent for like 3 months.
Yep.
I sent him a text last night at like 8 o'clock, and I just never got anything. And then this morning when I got up, I saw that I had a missed call on Discord. So he called me at 1:43 a.m. on Discord. And I'm like, okay. You expect me to still be up at that time?
In Discord, no less.
Yeah, on Discord, yeah. I might have still been awake. In fact, I was still awake during that time, but I certainly wasn't on Discord.
Wow, you were still awake? What's that like?
It's a bit of a mixed bag.
It sounds wild. It sounds like you're living a wild life.
I don't normally stay up that late these days. I mean, certainly not during the week. But
you're out of control.
Sometimes on the weekends. I had a lot of movies to watch this weekend, so I was cranking them out. And then I also got into the show The Boys on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
So I binged that, and I also got into the show Forever on Amazon, the one with Fred Armisen and
Maya Rudolph.
Maya Rudolph, yeah.
Yeah.
That was good too.
Yes, I enjoyed that as well.
So anyway, we're also going to be recording a new episode of Saved by the 90s today, so that'll be dropping. I'm going to try to get it out. I'm going to try to get it edited and done sometime next week, although I can't make any promises. Follow us on @90spod on Twitter, and we'll announce a release date. Just so you know, we're going to be doing spoof movies. So July had a lot of spoof movie releases in the 90s.
Yes.
So we're going to be talking about 4 spoof movies on this month's episode of Saved by the 90s. So keep a lookout for that. I think we can go ahead and dive into our review. Again, we're going to be talking about The Mountain. This is written and directed by Rick Alverson, also co-written by Dustin Guy Deffa and Colm O'Leary.
Mm-hmm.
I have a synopsis here. The story of a young man who, after losing his mother, goes to work with a doctor specializing in lobotomies and therapies. Now, you and I were both really excited for this.
Mm-hmm.
We both liked Rick Alverson's other movies. I was a big fan of the comedy. I liked entertainment. I think those were the only other 2 that I saw of his that he directed.
Yeah.
I did not see New Jerusalem or The Builder. However, the premise of this one, you have Ty Sheridan being a photographer for Jeff Goldblum, who plays a lobotomist in the 1950s, and they're on a tour of asylums throughout America. I was like, hell yeah, sign me up. And then when that trailer dropped, I was even more excited. I was like, holy shit, this movie looks incredible. And after seeing it, I would say this might be one of the biggest disappointments I've had this year so far.
Ooh, yeah.
In that my expectations, my hopes were so high for it. And what I got was just not anywhere on the same level. Now, the other thing that makes it so disappointing to me is because I think that for me, in my opinion of what I've seen this year so far at the movies, this is the best looking movie I've seen this year. I loved the aesthetics of this movie. I thought it looked so incredible. Yeah. Loved it.
Which is, that's the difficult thing, right? Because expectation wise, the look of this movie, everything that goes into the aesthetic of the movie, the cinematography, production design, costuming, all of it, right? way beyond expectations. Everything else, way, way below expectations. Just extremely hampered by essentially a non-existent storyline or narrative, whatever you want to call it. I mean, there's just if only people did something in this movie.
Yeah, it's such a shame because I feel like there are great actors in this, not just the two leads, but you also have Udo Kier in there, and then you have the guy from Holy Motors, who I'm forgetting.
Dennis Levant.
Yeah. You have him in there. So you have these like great actors, and I think the performances, such as they are good. It's just that they're very underutilized. Very, very underutilized.
Yeah. And they're also just in the service of nothing, really.
The characters lend little to nothing to the story, which in and of itself is little to nothing. There's just this movie is, and now for the record, I don't mind slow burn movies. I like slower paced movies, and I know you do too. You're a fan of the slow burn, and there's a lot of movies out there that really don't do anything that I like. You know, just these kind of meandering stories, and I would be okay with that. I would be okay if this was just a road trip movie about these two guys visiting asylums, doing stuff, you know, maybe learning a little bit about each other along the way. But they don't even really capitalize on that premise at all. It's just so slow and plodding. And a lot of it is just completely dialogueless. Like I have a review for this up on the site, and I said it's like the most depressing road trip movie ever conceived, because so much of it is just the two of them just driving. They're not really getting to know each other. They're not talking. And Ty Sheridan's character is Andy. Like he has like 5 lines in this whole movie.
Yeah, he doesn't talk. And I think that's the extremely frustrating thing is, for me, it's one of the things that I hate about American indie films taking to the extreme, where there's just that, like, people just, they won't answer a question. Like someone says something and Andy just looks up and then looks down, and that's it. But for some reason that scene takes 4 minutes to transpire, and it's like, just please open your goddamn mouth and say something. If not, don't make a fucking movie.
Yeah, I think frustrating is an understatement with this. Now, Rick Alverson is no stranger to this style of movie making. I think that all of his films have been challenging. I think that he actively wants you to hate his movies sometimes. His movies are so inaccessible, and it can be very grating. And certainly this is his most ambitious movie, but at the same time, it is in a lot of ways one of his most inaccessible, just because of how grating it is. Like you said, the frustration factor is just through the roof on this. Like 10 minutes in, I was like, okay, I see where we're going here with this. This is a really introverted protagonist. He doesn't say a lot. He's just he's brooding. He's just standing there. But then like 25 minutes in, 30 minutes in, there's like no growth of the character at all. And you're just like smashing your face against the wall. Like, have him do something or end the movie, because I can't take this anymore.
Okay, like he doesn't have to talk, because, you know, his character is kind of this, you know, stunted individual. But just move. I don't know. Walk somewhere. Do something. I don't know. It was very irritating. And then there's a whole lot of, because there's a decent amount of this that feels very fleeting, and that there's these very, very small superfluous scenes that just don't really need to exist at all. You know, like there would just be like a quick little scene of them eating breakfast, I guess. And that would last for like half a minute, and then it would just go to some, or, you know, Jeff Goldblum's like Lillian Gish, and then it was like the next thing I'm just like, what? Oh, okay, what? Whatever. And I think the thing that makes it even more frustrating is because of the overall look. Like everything, you can tell that there's just this immense attention to detail that went into this, because this looks like 1950s America. Like, it's immaculate.
Yeah, the level of detail in every set, every house they go to, like the costuming, the just everything, the hotels that they stay in, the different institutions that they go to and visit. It looks so good. I just can't stress enough how much I loved the visual style of this movie, the color palette that they used, where they used like all of these kind of muted colors, and like large portions of it were pretty bland and colorless, but then you have these sort of these like pops that would come in with like these nice like pastel colors, and it just looked so good. Like the framing, just all of the cinematography was just top notch, which is what makes this so disappointing, because this is a movie that I would love to like see again, but I just couldn't put myself through that.
Yeah, just put it on the TV and just mute it and just go about your day, and just intermittently, just stop in front of the TV every now and then and be like, oh yeah, this looks great. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's the type of movie that you could literally just pause at any moment and just pull a still, and it just looks so perfectly done.
It's the point, if you stop, then it's Ty Sheridan, and you just be like, oh, fuck off, Ty.
I think that he is a great actor, and I think that he did a lot with the character in this, even though, despite the character being so one note, you could tell that this was a character that had depth, but it's just that we never saw any of that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I know that, it works pretty well as this like a portraiture of like American loneliness, but at the same time, it's just that over and over again for like a little under 2 hours. It's just, it could have added something to it.
Jeff Goldblum was underutilized as well. I think that the lack of dialogue for his character really prevented him from, being Jeff Goldblum and really coming out of his shell. There's a few times where he acts a little kooky, but not as much as I expected.
No. And I mean, it is interesting in the sense of like the 50s with lobotomies and everything, which is just complete insanity to me. The fact that, the majority of people that got lobotomies, were either gay men or women. And here you have the majority of the people doing the lobotomies are the ones that are out of their fucking minds.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah.
And I also did not know that this movie... I thought it was just lobotomies. I didn't know that they were going to be doing the electroshock therapy, which is... that is way too difficult to watch.
Yeah, there were a number of medical procedure scenes in this that looked very accurate and disturbing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I know that I have a family member that had that, and I know what it does. It's not good.
Yeah. So that's The Mountain. Any final thoughts before we give this a score?
The only thing with it is like Levant shows up at the end, right? And Hannah Gross even there for a little bit, which is like she brings some interest into the movie, and then they immediately cut that off. But the same thing with Levant, like he tries to like add this, emotion to it, the completely emotionless film, and tries to get it at the end there. And like it was kind of welcome for me, but at the same time, I'm like I don't know what any of these people are doing. I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, like the scene when we're at the whatever kind of like workshop thing that he was running.
That's what I mean. Like you only get like any of these moments that you get, they're so short and fleeting that it ultimately doesn't matter. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, it kind of sucks. I mean, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous film, but man, is it a tough watch. I just couldn't get into it.
It's hollow. It's hollow. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a lobotomy itself. I don't know. Is the film lobotomized? I don't know. Maybe, perhaps.
It doesn't work either way. I mean, if that's that could be what he was going for, but if that's the case, that's just doing a disservice to the audience and the film itself, and I can't really get behind that.
Yeah. But again, I will reiterate very strongly, everyone that was involved with dressing this movie up in terms of set decoration, costumes, incredible job.
Yeah, I mean the locations too, the different like hospitals and hotels that they go to. I mean, it's just so good, just so good. All right, I gave this a 5 out of 10 on my review. Kevin, what are you going to give this?
I think I'm right there with you, straight down the middle of the line.
Yeah, I mean, if it didn't look as good as it did, it would be lower. It would be certainly lower. But
yes.
The score was really good too, by the way. All right, let's talk about some of what we've been watching on the watch list. Kevin, I believe it is your turn this week.
I think that's bullshit, but whatever.
All right, fair enough.
I finally watched Final Destination from 2000.
Wow,
James
first
Wall.
first time watch.
I think so. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
None of it felt familiar to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I actually found this movie to be kind of ridiculously fun. I mean, some of it doesn't work, but just I love this idea of death essentially being this monster that creates these ridiculous Rube Goldberg devices in order to kill people that he wasn't able to kill the first. Just the way things escalate, which the highlight being the teacher that dies, that Devon Sawa he's like really the first one that he tries to intervene and, stop from happening. And it is insane, everything that happens in order to kill this woman. And it just keeps going and going. And Devon Sawa just has no idea what to do. Like he got to the point where he kind of knows what's going on, and he has an idea that he can intervene, but he has no idea how to do this. That's the main thing that I liked about this movie is it felt. I mean, as ridiculous as it is, it felt very realistic in that yes, he figured things out, but he still has no idea how to do what he needs to do. He's just kind of failing. And also how he kind of loses his mind trying to, playing this game with death.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a great idea.
I love the whole series. I'm a fan of, I wasn't a huge fan of the second one, but all the rest of them, man, all of them are really fun.
Yeah, it was enough that I was like, yes, I am going to continue with this.
Yeah,
series.
there's some weaker entries in the franchise, but I think it's the third one, the one that was in 3D, was not great either. I think that was the one with the roller coaster. But yeah, most of them are really over the top fun.
It's just like his buddy, the first one that goes with like he's in the bathroom, and it's just constantly like he just narrowly escapes it, and then it sets it up as like this is going to be the way that he's going to end up going out.
You're like, nope.
It's just, and I love that the water creeps under his foot. He didn't move. He doesn't move. But just the water getting under that foot just throws off his equilibrium. He just, foot goes out. He's done.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see if you see more of these, and
I'm definitely going to try to
hear what you think about some of the sequels.
Yeah, this is something that kind of came out of like, me and my wife both kind of realizing that we haven't seen a lot of these kind of like horror movies from either the 90s or the early 2000s. Or if I have seen them and she hasn't, it's been such a long time for me. So we're kind of going at them. And man, they're, just everything that the people wear in this movie. Oh man, just like shirts 3 sizes too big.
Yeah.
Just
the first Final Destination came out in 2000, but it's definitely a 90s movie.
Oh my God. Incredible.
So I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Obviously, this is the new Quentin Tarantino movie. Everybody's talking about it this weekend. I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. I think it had some problems. I think that there were some editing issues with this movie. It just feels very inconsistent. And I feel like, I think I read that there was like some kind of like 4.5 hour version of this movie or something. Now the one that's in theaters right now is 2 hours and 41 minutes. So it's pushing 3 hours, and you feel the length. It's pretty long. This is not a movie for you, Kevin, I don't think.
This was when you were like, because I had to work this weekend, and when you threw that out there, I was like, well, let me see what the runtime is on this bad boy. And as soon as I saw the runtime, I was like, no. I'm already going to have not a lot of time this weekend. Not happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should probably still see it, but I maybe would temper your expectations going into it, just specifically for you, because I think that there's going to be a lot of elements of it that you're not into. There is narration in it. There's some voiceover happening that is unnecessary and not very consistent at all. Like, it just pops up out of nowhere and then it just disappears for a while and then it comes back and then it's gone. A lot of the movie is spent on set with Leonardo DiCaprio's character just acting like in this like Western that he's in. And I feel like they spend way too much time doing this. Like they'll be like, I don't know, half a dozen scenes that play out. And it just feels like this is too much. Like why is all of this in here? Like, I feel like you could properly convey this man's plight and where he's at in his life and in his career, and also where Hollywood is at during this time and in a pretty major transition period. You could convey all of that with just a couple scenes, and they just really overdo it with that. It's a really, really pretty wildly entertaining time, though. Like, it is consistently funny. I think it's probably Tarantino's funniest movies. I think it's more a comedy than any of his other movies, and I really enjoyed that. And I also really just enjoyed the Hollywood landscape. You know, this is at the dawn of the golden age of Hollywood, and I feel like Tarantino, being such a movie lover himself and being essentially a film historian, he's able to, you know, put in so many little like tidbits of this era that were just like almost throwaway things, like just little visual cues, like just tiny little like conversations that, you know, you just blink and you'll miss them things that really kind of accentuate the time period in which this took place. And then you have the big, I'm not going to spoil anything, but you have this big culminating finale that was really effective and worked tremendously well. So there were a lot of things I liked about it. Obviously, the performances, you have Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio were great, but also Margot Robbie was really, really great as Sharon Tate as well. Pretty much everybody across the board was solid performance-wise. So there was a lot that I really, really liked about the movie. I just felt like it was a little rough in the editing at times, and I feel like it just could have been trimmed up a little bit. But otherwise, I would still say it is absolutely worth a look. Certainly not my favorite Tarantino movie, but it's not. I don't know if it would necessarily be at the bottom of the list either.
I saw Girlfriends from 1978. This is directed by Claudia Weil. This is on Criterion Channel. This is a movie I've been wanting to see for ages, right? It's supposed to be, this unbelievable classic. And so finally get to Criterion Channel. Thank you for that. And man, this is pretty damn good. This is pretty incredible. This is the movie that I guess largely influenced the show Girls. And it's Melanie Mayron plays Susan Weinblatt, and her roommate. Her roommate ends up moving out, getting married, all that. She gets married to Bob Balaban, a young Bob Balaban. And Susan Weinblatt ends up dating a young Christopher Guest. So a lot of great comedy in there. But the interesting thing here is that it's like about an hour and a half, right? And it's just, there's not a lot in terms of like a narrative arc. Well, I'm sorry, there is, but it covers a lot of ground in that hour and a half, right? So a lot of subject matter, a lot of time, a lot of what goes on with the relationships, who they're dating, them as friends, other people, stuff in her career as a photographer, where like she has setbacks, but she also has victories. Like for the runtime, it definitely feels like there's a lot more going on. Like they jam pack so much into it, so it feels longer, but in a good way. It doesn't feel like it's just dragging on. You're just kind of surprised at the end to be like, wow, that was only an hour and a half. Felt much larger in scope, and it's just a great balance and a great mix of comedy and drama, and it seems to just a great job of shifting between the two and knowing exactly when to do that, tonally. And it just, everything about it works.
Might have to check this out. That's Girlfriends on the Criterion Channel. All right, so I'm in week 37 of Fantasia Fest, the festival that never seems to end.
No,
I swear to God, dude. I swear to God, this is the longest film festival in the world. It just never ends. One movie that I could recommend is called Freaks. This is directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein. Now, this is a movie that I think will certainly divide audiences in where it goes, because it is a movie that I'm not sure, like the marketing material for this is a little bit intentionally deceiving, and I haven't seen there is a trailer out. They did release a trailer, but I haven't watched it, so I'm not sure how much they give away in the trailer. But it is the type of movie that you want to go in completely cold. You don't want to know anything about this one going into it, because I feel like if you did unintentionally read some stuff about it or see too much in a trailer, that it could very well ruin the experience, because there's several twists and several things that happen that are really surprising, that take the movie into some really interesting directions. What I will say is that it stars Emil Hirsch and Lexi Kolker as a father and a young daughter who seem to be held up in this like decrepit, like derelict house, and he refuses to let his daughter go outside. Even though it looks perfectly fine, he says that you'll be killed. And you know that there's something weird going on because like he will periodically bleed from his eyes.
Ooh.
And he's like asking her if she ever bleeds from her eyes. So you know that there's something happening with that. And you also know that there's this kind of creepy ice cream man that sits outside in front of their house. And he's played by Bruce Dern. And you know that the girl's mother is presumed dead. And you also know that she has like visions of what she believes to be like ghosts. And that's really all you need to know going into it. Where it goes from there is not expected at all. It's set up like a horror movie where you have this like crazy, possibly abusive father who's preventing his daughter from going outside, but then it sort of turns into this almost sci-fi story. And I won't divulge any other details, but I really liked where it went. I thought it was really fun and interesting, and it's definitely one that I could easily recommend. That's called Freaks.
I had an A24 horror movie, right? Called A Hole in the Ground.
Yeah, I've heard about this. I haven't seen this yet.
So it caught my interest because one of the main parts of the storyline is that there's a massive sinkhole on this woman's property. So this woman takes her young son. They move, right? She's a single mom now. She's moving to this new place with her son. So it's, of course, one of those movies where it's like, the single mom horror film where the can't handle the kid or whatever. I guess too much stress. And of course, she gets some medication, and then it starts playing into this whole idea of like, is she actually crazy or is she actually onto something? So it's a lot of well-worn territory that you've seen a lot of other movies, but not many horror movies have a massive sinkhole on someone's property that plays, kind of an important role here. So I read sinkhole. I said, okay, sinkholes. Now, the sinkhole that's in this movie is insane. Like it's like a couple city blocks. Like it's a big ass sinkhole, just like swallowing a forest. And no one seems to be discussing this at all. No one's doing anything about it. She walks out into the forest, sees this massive sinkhole, and she's just like, oh shit. And her son comes over, and her son's like, hey, what's that? And I shit you not, her answer is nothing. And they go back to the house. Now, if you're a parent, I think it's kind of important to explain what a sinkhole is and how fucking dangerous they are, especially one that's eating like half of a forest. Okay? So that's her first mistake, because the kid ends up going into the sinkhole, right? And he comes back, and the whole thing is, hey, is he different? Did the sinkhole do something? And it's just like no one outside of what I just said, which is, hey, what's that? Oh, it's nothing, honey. Let's go back to the house. There is no mention of the sinkhole ever in the rest of the movie. And I don't understand that. Like, it's just, all the other like horror elements of it are just, it's just, you've seen it before in better movies and done better. And then the ending is really bizarre, where it's this kind of a climax, and then it just kind of like, it like fast forwards through its own movie and just like kind of skips ahead and like, we're done. And you're just like, oh, really? Just like massive leaps in time to just be like, yep, we're done. Roll credits. It's kind of bizarre. It doesn't work. None of it really works.
All right. I saw, here's a couple other Fantasia ones. One that I kind of liked was called The Wretched. This is a little bit of a creature feature. It almost has a Fright Night vibe, maybe mixed in with a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, It's essentially about this little harbor town, and this kid, this teenager who is like sort of rebelling against his parents' divorce. He's a little shit, and he goes to his dad's place. His dad owns this marina, and he goes to work at the marina for the summer, and he starts noticing some weird stuff going on with his neighbors. And what happened was his neighbor hits a deer with her car on the way home and takes the deer back to her house in order to like gut it and harvest its meat. Mm-hmm. But as it turns out, there's a witch that's hiding inside of the deer's body.
Oh, fuck.
And the witch
sounds incredible.
The witch emerges from the deer.
Yes.
In a very gross scene, and ends up taking over the mom, the wife that's the neighbor, and essentially goes inside her body and wears her like a skin suit. And
boy.
And so what she does is she's a witch, so she wants to gather up all the children. She wants the children.
Naturally.
But because she's a witch, she has the ability to sort of cast spells on other people. So she starts controlling the other people in the town and taking over the other people in the town.
Oh my.
And the douchebag neighbor kid, he sees this like something's going on here, but of course nobody believes him. He's like, there's a witch taking over people's bodies, and nobody believes him. And it of course leads to this like big climax at the end. There's some really interesting twists and turns that happen along the way. Some really kind of fun things that I didn't see coming. And there's some really excellent practical effects work done here too. Some really kind of gruesome, gross stuff that happens. So I had a lot of fun with it. I hated the main character, the kid. I thought he was a real piece of shit. But other than that, like it was a really fun time. Again, that's called The Wretched. So keep an eye out for that one.
Yeah, it's it. Like every little tidbit of the narrative that you gave, every little morsel just made it sound even better.
Yeah, I think you would have a good time with that. Another one that was a really good time was Satanic Panic, directed by Chelsea Stardust. This is it's a horror comedy, super, super graphic, really gory horror comedy about a pizza delivery person who delivers pizza to this rich neighborhood, this like sort of big mansion, and they stiff her on the tip. And she finds that her scooter is out of gas, so she goes to try to maybe collect a tip and maybe get some help with her scooter situation. And like nobody's answering the door, so she goes inside and finds that they're doing a satanic ritual in this big mansion. And it turns out that all of the neighborhood people that live in this like rich, like affluent, gated community are all part of a satanic cult. And as it turns out, they need a virgin for their ritual. And the virgin that they did have ended up having sex like the day of or the day before the ritual because she knew that she was going to be sacrificed. Turned out to be the daughter of one of the Satanists. And this is a really, really fun movie. It has Rebecca Romaine in it. She plays like the lead cultist, and her husband is played by Jerry O'Connell, who's her husband in real life. And he has a soul patch, and he vapes constantly, and something really awful happens to him that's also very funny. AJ Bowen is in there too. Something really terrible. Yeah, of course he is. And something terrible happens to him too. Something really gory and horrific. Haley Griffith she's the lead. She plays the lead, and she's really great in it as well. I definitely recommend this one. It's so over the top, really goofy. All practical effects in this one as well. And yeah, I had a blast with Satanic Panic.
Nice.
It's really, really fun. Let's see. I guess the only other one that I will mention, the final one, is called Harpoon. And this is directed by Rob Grant, and it involves three, I would say, quote, best friends, because as you find out that they're not really best friends. They're kind of horrible people in general. But it's three friends who go out on one of these friends is rich and he has his own boat, and they go out for a day on the water, and they end up getting into this big fight, and one of the friends ends up getting shot in the hand with a spear gun. And they have this sort of the big fist fight breaks out. One of them gets knocked out, and then the two of them, the guy and a young woman, they decide to just kill this friend, because if he wakes up, because they knock him out, if he wakes up, he's going to kill us because he's nuts. So they're like, all right, let's just dump him overboard. We can say it was an accident. So they dump him overboard, and he wakes up in the water, and they sort of decide, okay, we're not going to kill each other. We're just we're going to go back. We're going to forget any of this ever happened. So they were like, okay, let's get rid of anything that you can use to hurt someone. So they essentially dump everything on the boat overboard. And then they find out that the boat's not turning on, and they're stuck out in the middle of the ocean. So then it turns into this like survival story where they're out at sea. They have no water. They have no food, no way to communicate to get home. And you have these three people that hate each other, and it goes to some of the places that it goes you expect. But it does take some interesting detours here and there. And the writing is actually quite smart. And this is, again, is sort of straddles the line between dark comedy and thriller. And this is another one that I could recommend checking out. I mean, it's sort of the perfect VOD movie where it's not amazing. You don't have to see it in the theater or anything, but it's a lot of fun. So I would keep an eye out on Harpoon.
Okay.
And also there's some really disturbing things that happen in this as well. Imagine you're out on a boat for days and days and days, and you had a spear go through your hand, and what might happen to that wound after days and days without treatment. That's it. That's all I got this week. All right, let's talk about some new releases in theaters this week. We got Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
I love it.
I mean, this movie looks pretty fun. I'll be honest. It looks like a completely over the top, ridiculous, fun time. I'm pretty into it. I'll check it out.
I do.
The whole like Fast and Furious presents thing is unnecessary.
Yes, that's the part that I love the most.
Yeah.
I just love how they're getting so ridiculous with it.
Like, you couldn't just, I mean, I think just putting Hobbs and Shaw would be enough. Like, people would know. Like, these are the two characters.
No. You gotta get that brand out there. Brand out front.
Either way, I think it looks pretty fun. You got The Rock in there, you got Jason Statham, two sworn enemies of the franchise that are forced to team up against Idris Elba, who's playing the bad guy. And you got Helen Mirren in there.
And
come on.
Isn't Idris Elba like a fucking android or something?
He has like just judging from the trailer, he has like some kind of biotech in him that makes him like superhuman or something.
Yeah, he's like indestructible. It's insane. I love how they're just going into superhero territory.
Yeah.
They're just that's what's the fashion right now, so let's do it.
Well, it looks like they're just totally embracing it. So yeah. I'm pretty stoked for it. It's directed by David Leitch, who did Deadpool 2. He did Atomic Blonde. He did the first John Wick. He was a co-director on the first John Wick. So it should be a good time. Let's see what else we have here. The Nightingale is coming out, and I'm assuming I think this is limited release.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I can't imagine this is getting a wide release. This is Jennifer Kent's much
yeah.
anticipated follow-up to The Babadook.
I think with you announcing it now here in limited release, I think that puts me at like 2 more years, and then I'll probably be able to see it.
Yeah, you might not get a chance to see this for a little while. It looks like it's another one of these kind of folk horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Very trendy, the folk horror.
I remember this being like on one of my anticipated lists in like 2016.
Oh, yeah. Long time ago. I remember we were talking about this one for years.
Ages ago.
Luce is also coming out. That's Luce. This is the one with Octavia Spencer, Naomi Watts, Tim Roth, Kelvin Harrison Jr., where they adopt a kid from this like a war-torn country, and he grows up to be this like star student, and there's some sort of like scandal that happens involving Octavia Spencer, who plays a teacher of his. It looks quite good. I've heard really good things out of, I believe it was premiered at Sundance.
Okay.
So I'm slightly interested in that. It looks like there's almost like a thriller element to it.
Ooh.
So yeah, very curious to check that out. Another one that I'm curious about is Them That Follow. This is going to be in limited release as well. This is about a isolated community of serpent handlers.
Oh boy.
That's an obscure sect of Pentecostals. And I think, I don't know who they're led by, if they're led by Walton Goggins, but Walton Goggins is involved, and I can't think of anyone better to portray a serpent handling Pentecostal than Walton Goggins.
Whoever did the casting for that. Bang job.
So yeah, I'm and it takes place in Appalachia, which is an area that I personally love. So yes.
Yeah.
You remember that one? There was another movie that came out years ago.
Yeah.
That was about serpent handling, and we saw it at South by, and we were like really excited about it, and it turned out to not be very good at all. So I'm hoping that this is like what we wanted that one to be.
Yeah. Yeah, this definitely sounds very interesting.
Yeah. Might have to review that next week.
Might have to watch out.
We also have Piranhas, which is I think this is sort of a coming of age story. I believe it's Italian, and it's about a group of friends who start to like deal drugs and stuff. I can't remember where. I know it's Italian, but I don't remember exactly where it takes place. Based on a novel by the guy who wrote Gomorrah.
Okay.
So yeah, we should have a review for this up on the site early this week. We also have Tel Aviv on Fire, Lady World. This is a sort of sci-fi dystopian future where I believe it's like only young women.
Only ladies.
It says 8 teenage girls are trapped at an endless birthday party in the canyons after a massive ecological event.
Okay. Oh, that sounds...
I think it's like a sort of a Lord of the Flies scenario, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I was seeing there.
Yeah. That looks like that's pretty much it for theaters this week. Let's see what we have on VOD. Now, on Tuesday, we have Illuminated, the true story of the Illuminati. I don't know if that could be like, can you actually say that, the true story of the Illuminati? I mean, don't most people think that the Illuminati is not even a real thing, like that it never even really existed, and the whole thing is just a hoax?
I was gonna say, like, if it's like the legit true, it would be like 5 minutes long and just be like, it's made up, and then credits roll. Like, come on now.
Maybe I'll give this a look. just to see.
That would be funny if they did have like a lot of substantial evidence that just really sealed it, that it is 100% true. They just blow the whole thing open, and everyone ignores it except for you, the one person that saw it, and then you get extremely obsessed with it.
Turn into one of those people.
And I lose my friend for the rest of our lives.
Because I see the triangle Illuminati symbol like in everything, and I believe that it's all a sign.
I hope that doesn't happen.
I highly doubt that would happen. Also on Tuesday, we have Surviving Confession. This is a comedy. We got Chain of Death.
Ooh.
We have, and then on the 31st on HBO, we have Unmasking Jihadi John, Anatomy of a Terrorist. On Friday, do we have anything on Friday? We have A Score to Settle, 15 Minutes of War, Otherhood, which is on Netflix. And it looks like that's it for this week on VOD. On Blu-ray, we have Humanoids from the Deep from 1980. This looks like a steelbook that's coming out.
Oh, boy.
Glory from 1989 is coming out on 4K. Hellmaster from 1992 is coming out. I think this might be a Vinegar Syndrome. It is. And then Play Dead from 1983 is also coming out on Vinegar Syndrome. This looks like it might be a killer dog movie. We have Lust for a Vampire from 1971. We have The Pink Ladies from 1980 and Mascara from 1983. The last two I mentioned are also on Vinegar Syndrome.
Jeez.
Man, Vinegar Syndrome's been cranking them out lately. They've been killing it. Long Shot from earlier this year is coming out. That's the comedy with Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't hear great things.
Mm-mm.
Portraits of Andrea Palmer from 2017. Domino. That's the De Palma one.
Ooh.
Coming out. Yeah.
No, thank you.
El Chicano from, it says 2018, but I think that came out earlier this year.
Yeah, I'm pretty
I seem to
sure.
remember that coming out earlier this year. And that's pretty much it. Do we have any criterions this week?
We have 0.
0 criterions. All right. There we have it.
There you go.
I think that's going to do it for this week. In that case, thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, take a look at our Patreon page, patreon.com/FilmPulse. Consider helping us out by becoming a subscriber. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.